Hello and thank you for joining me on this short video, Common Health Entry Document, or CHED. My name's Andy Bowles and I'm a food lawyer. Now you may be watching this video as part of our online training service, in which case you can download a whole bunch of additional resources once you've logged in. It's available by subscription. You can also watch a series of webinars on imported food control which explain in a lot more detail the concepts that I'm going to run through now. Now the Common Health Entry Document is used to facilitate the importation of products of animal origin from outside Great Britain and high-risk foods not of animal origin from outside Great Britain. Now if you're not familiar with the importation procedures, I recommend you go and just watch the short video that I've produced on import procedures. But just as a recap, if you're importing a product of animal origin from outside Great Britain, then you can only do so by pre-notifying an authorised port of entry for the purposes of checks, and that's called a border control post. The border control post, when the consignment arrives, will perform the relevant veterinary checks based on a risk programme, and once they perform those checks, if the checks are completed and are satisfactory, they'll validate a Common Health Entry Document, which you would have initiated as part of the import process. So the CHED-P is a Common Health Entry Document for products of animal origin. If you're importing a high-risk food not of animal origin, there's a separate video on what a high-risk food not of animal origin is, then it's a similar process, not veterinary checks that the products will go through, but it's similar sort of enhanced checks. And you will also have to do pre-notification using the same system, which is the IPAFS system. There's a separate video on IPAFS. But you just get a Common Health Entry Document, a CHED-D, which will be validated at the port, and you can use that inland to demonstrate that your products have been lawfully imported. So for importation purposes of products of animal origin or high-risk foods not of animal origin, the Common Health Entry Document serves as a method of part of the pre-notification process, but more importantly, I suppose, once you've actually got through the checks, it's a physical document that will be used to demonstrate at the first destination inland of your goods that the products have been lawfully imported. And when inland officers are performing checks in warehouses and factories and whatnot, they will be looking for products of animal origin that have been delivered directly from the ports. They'll be looking for high-risk foods not of animal origin that have come directly from the port, and they will be looking for the hard copy of the relevant CHED to demonstrate lawful import. So I said that pre-notification is required. Pre-notification is required using the IPAFS system, the Imports of Products, Animals, Food and Feed system. Now there is a separate video just briefly going through what IPAFS is. You use the Common Health Entry Document, the CHED, to complete the first steps on IPAFS. So basically what you'll be saying is, you know, who you are, what the product is, and so forth. It needs to be completed and sent through the pre-notification to the port, the border control post, at least 1 day prior to the arrival of the consignment, and it needs to be completed by somebody with a Great Britain address, so somebody who's actually responsible for the consignment within GB. Products of animal origin I've referred to so far. Remember, these are meat, fish, dairy, eggs, honey, and so forth. And the CHED-P document comes in two parts. First part is pretty much the pre-notification information that you generate on IPAFS. So you'll be putting in place there things like who you are as the consignor, who the consignee is, the place of destination. The place of destination listed on the CHED document here must be the destination that the product actually goes to. So an inspecting officer in an inland facility who has received products of animal origin imported from outside of GB into a port, and the products has come from the port directly to that establishment, will be checking to make sure the destination name is indeed the premises that they're stood in. You'll need other names like means of transport, country of origin, details of the commodity codes and so forth. The second part of the Common Health Entry Document, the CHED-P, is very much for the official inspectors to complete. What they'll do is they will perform, or rather record, the outcome of any checks that they've undertaken. Now at the port, for a product animal origin, the 3 veterinary checks, and there is a separate video on veterinary checks performed, are the documentary check, the identity check, and the physical check. Now, it depends what the food is, depends on the risk associated with that, so there may not be actually full checks performed, but where checks are performed, the results will be recorded on this document. If any samples are taken, the results will be put on this document as well. And this document will be issued if the consignment is satisfactory. It'll be stamped by the port and signed, and I say that physical copy will be issued with every consignment released by the port. There is, other part of the document that if things don't go so well, then obviously if you fail veterinary checks, then that also will be recorded on the Common Health Entry Document. But then the foods will have to be subject to other provisions like destruction or re-export or whatever it might be. For foods that are not of animal origin, that are high risk, the issue here is that if you look at the short video I've done on this, you've got some that are inherently high risk, things like peanuts from China, pistachios from Iran, that sort of thing. There are some foods not of animal origin that are temporarily high risk. They're put on a list where they're going to be subject to enhanced checks. So the pre-notification via IPAFs is the same. Part 1 of the CHED is, it's not exactly the same, but it's the same sort of concept. You fill in details of who you are, what the consignment is, where it's come from, where it's going to, description of the food, all that sort of thing. There are some other bits and bobs on there, but part 1 is very much along those lines. Part 2 is again of the CHED-D, is just a record of checks that are carried out. Now, they're not veterinary checks, enhanced checks, but they follow the same lines: documentary, identity, physical checks, where appropriate. Some of those checks are actually specified in law, so they're not discretionary as they are perhaps with products of animal origin. And some, it's just a random figure. So it depends. The port will, record the results of all of this, and again, will endorse it, stamp it, and if you have a relevant high-risk food not of animal origin that's being imported, then that document will be a physical document which must accompany it to its first destination, the destination that's identified on the CHED document itself. There we go, that's just a brief overview of the Common Health Entry Document. It's just one of 100 videos on the topic of UK food law. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll join me on another video. Cheers.